At this point in time, I'd like to yield 5 minutes to a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee and also a member of the Subcommittee on the Middle East, Mr. Fortenberry from Nebraska.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank the gentleman from Michigan. Madam Speaker, when I left home this week for Washington, my 6-year-old Catherine became very sad. You see, she has big, beautiful brown eyes, and they welled up with tears at the prospect of my leaving again for Washington. And she said to me, "Daddy, why do you have to be a congressman?" And I thought of the words of the Revolutionary War author Thomas Paine when he said, "I prefer peace, but if trouble must come, let it come in my time so that my children can have peace." Madam Speaker, this is a pivotal moment for our nation and a very grave and solemn policy debate. We cannot afford to allow the ups and downs of the daily news cycle to set the course for our deliberations. The stakes in Iraq are simply too high. During last year's debate on Iraq, I emphasized that this war is different from wars of the past. There is no front, no lines of demarcation, no clear enemy and distinct uniforms. This is a war that invades tranquil time and space without warning, carried out by those who hide among civilian populations, seeking to exploit the vulnerable for ruthless ideological purposes. We have never before waged a war in an era of globalization, in an age when technology eviscerates the concept of distance, magnifies our losses, trivializes our accomplishments, and places our adversaries in a far better position to leverage our freedoms, particularly the freedom of speech, against us. These are the complexities we face now. Madam Speaker, I submit that our choices now stand to determine not only the future of the Middle East, but the very future of civilization. We can point fingers and blame each other, or we can think constructively together. So what are our choices? The National Intelligence Estimate categorically rejects an arbitrary or precipitous U.S. troop withdrawal. The result would be horrific chaos, a humanitarian disaster, destabilizing the entire Middle East, emboldening the geopolitical aims of Iran, and leading to a much less peaceful world in very short order. The conflict in Iraq is dangerous, risky, and complex. And we can all agree that our troops are doing an outstanding job, and so are their families, who bear the biggest burden in their absence. I submit that our time and energy as leaders of this nation should be focused on new, clear military and geopolitical strategies. First, Iraqis must fight for their own country now. They must lead in the battle for Baghdad now. Over the past several months, I joined colleagues in urging the President to deploy trained Iraqi troops into the heart of the battle for Baghdad, and I am pleased to see that this recommendation is now underway. However, I remain concerned about exposing our forces to unnecessary danger in sectarian violence, in the sectarian violence of Baghdad. As best we can, our troops should remain in support and training roles. I also believe that it is prudent to send reinforcements to our Marines in Anbar province, who are achieving good success against al-Qaeda elements in collaboration with Sunni tribal leadership. Second, we must engage responsible members of the international community, particularly the pan-Arab world, to assume a unified and decisive role in neutralizing the forces of chaos and helping secure stability and peace throughout the Middle East. Third, we must provide meaningful congressional oversight, and I commend Chairman Lantos for taking this lead in the House Foreign Affairs Committee and for his commitment to a substantive and reasoned debate in this regard. I would have liked to have had the opportunity to support a constructive bipartisan initiative drawing upon the substantive resources like the Iraqi Study Group to enhance congressional oversight and set out meaningful benchmarks to measure progress toward the stabilization of Iraq and the drawdown of our troops. While it would be politically easier for me to vote for this resolution, I cannot. I see no useful purpose in supporting a non-binding resolution that may have the unintentional consequence of undermining our efforts while our troops remain in harm's way. Madam Speaker, this resolution, while wrapped in the mantle of supporting our troops, does not point to a credible way forward in Iraq. I believe I would make the same decision if a Democratic administration were struggling with similarly arduous challenges. An additional 30 seconds.
Yield the gentleman an additional 30 seconds.
Gentleman is recognized for an additional 30 seconds.
If we flinch now, regardless of the goodwill behind our motivations, if we are perceived as weak and divided and eager to throw up our hands in frustration, we will pay a heavy price. And every nation that counts upon us as a friend and ally will also pay a very heavy price. None of us wants to see the repeat of the last helicopter out of Saigon. I urge my colleagues, let's find constructive ways to get the job done. I yield back.